So, lots to talk to the government minister of the day about now. We can talk about rises in income tax, facing down the doctors' strike. But first, the government has promised to help struggling families with a new £500 million fund over the next 10 years.
It hopes the Better Futures Fund will filter into local government and schools to boost children's life chances. Chief Secretary to the Treasury, Darren Jones, joins us now from Westminster. Good morning.
Morning.
To you. This obviously sounds like a positive thing to be doing. Who is going to be benefiting from this? Because when we look at the situation in the country right now, you know, there are an awful lot of people that may well put themselves in the bracket of struggling families.
Well, good morning. Great to be with you. Our Better Futures Fund, which is £500 million of public money matched with up to £500 million of investment from private sector investors who want to invest in social good, will be a £1 billion pot that will be distributed to very local community organisations and community groups who sign up to deliver what's called an outcomes contract. And what that basically means is that they will support children and young people to help challenge the structural causes of poverty by getting people into training and skills and work opportunities to allow them to have a better life in the future. These social impact bonds, as they're called, were successful under the last New Labour government. I benefited from them. The community, the council estate that I grew up in my now constituency of Bristol North West, benefited from them. And so it was a personal priority of mine as Chief Secretary to bring them back into government, which I'm delighted to be able to announce today.
OK, but we know, sorry, I was just going to say, we know that one of the most effective ways to reduce child poverty would be to axe the two-child benefit cap, wouldn't it? That would lift 300,000 children out of poverty overnight. Why wouldn't you do that?
Well, look, this is one piece of the puzzle in terms of all of the different things we want to do as a government to help lift child poverty generally. That's why we've already announced things like extending free school meals to children from all families on universal credit, doing breakfast clubs, more subsidised childcare, because we know these support payments help families on low incomes, especially at a time of cost of living crisis. But this particular fund, the Better Futures Fund, is not so much a kind of payment transfer. It's not trying to support people with the day-to-day bills. It's trying to intervene, particularly on the young person's life, to give them the opportunity to be able to tackle the structural causes of child poverty, which is often lack of educational attainment or lack of access to good employment in the future. And as I say, I benefited from this personally. The last Labour government, through what was then called the Gifted and Talented programme and the neighbourhood support for communities like the one I grew up in, Lawrence Weston, in my constituency, made kind of opened up opportunities for children like me to be able to get on and have good lives as I've benefited from. And that's why this is a particular policy that works directly with children and young people, as opposed to the broader amounts of support that we give to families to help with the cost of living.
And I can tell it's dear to your heart. Well, look, the question which we have to put to people like you from now on, really, for the foreseeable, whenever you come up with an idea and a treatment like this, is, well, how are you going to pay for it? Because obviously the government finances are in a total mess at the moment, and we all await with bated breath Reid's autumn budget. And the speculation, well, it's more than speculation, really, it's pretty much certainty now, is that you're going to raise taxes. You're going to raise income tax. Interviews yesterday with Heidi Alexander, the Transport Secretary, the hints were so clearly there. Just let me quote what she said to Trevor Phillips on Sky News. She said, "We made a commitment in our manifesto not to be putting up taxes on people on modest incomes, working people." Well, no, that was not a promise in the manifesto. The promise in the manifesto was not to put taxes up on working people. There was no mention of modest incomes. That's a qualifying clause now, which opens the door to taxing the middle classes and above. We can expect income tax rises on reasonably medium-paid people and above next autumn, can't we? This autumn, rather.
Look, there's a couple of things you asked me there. I'll just take them in turn. I mean, the Better Futures Fund that we're announcing today is fully funded in the spending review that we announced recently, spending the money that was raised at the budget in the autumn last year. So that's fully accounted for. And I wouldn't describe the public budgets as being in a mess. We've just set out multi-year spending reviews until the end of this Parliament, which are fully funded. But look, you're right, there are some things that have carried through to the budget which will need to be funded at that time. For example, where Parliament disagreed with the government on welfare reform.
What about income tax? Are you going to put income tax up?
So on tax, I will say two things to you. One is that you will know that we do not speculate on tax policy. It's important that the Chancellor announces that in a structured way at the budget at the end of the year. But the thing I can tell you is that our manifesto commitment coming into this election was that we were not going to increase the headline rate of income tax or employee national insurance on working people in the pay slips that people get when they go to work, or on VAT, because we know that that disproportionately affects people on lower incomes because they spend more of their money on the day-to-day shop, essentially, at the local shop.
OK, so you're saying that income tax per se will not go up?
I'm saying that the manifesto commitment, which was not to increase the headline rate of income tax or employee national insurance or VAT,
Come on, I think we've all
is a
looked up
promise.
the manifesto. You've done so many U-turns on the policies.
No. It's a promise. It's a promise that we made. It's a promise that we've kept, and it's a promise that we're going to continue.
Well,
then
why couldn't Heidi Alexander, your cabinet colleague, be clearer yesterday? She said it was so obvious the way she was opening the door, leaving the door ajar for this. I'll quote it again. We made a commitment in our manifesto not to be putting up taxes on people on modest incomes, working people. OK, well, you define modest income then. What's a modest income these days?
Look, I would just politely suggest that we're getting a bit carried away. I mean, this is the problem with tax speculation, which is why we don't do it. What Heidi was referring to was our manifesto commitment, which, as I say, is not to increase income tax or employee national insurance on working people in their pay slips or VAT that we pay in the shops.
But what did she mean by modest income? How do you interpret modest income?
I think a modest income means different things to different people, but it's not entirely relevant, because the thing that is relevant is our manifesto commitment not to increase national insurance or employee national or income tax in the payslips that people receive every month. That's a promise that we have honoured, and that's what Heidi was referring to.
So should she not have used that phrase then? Because I think the issue is, a lot of people are uncertain. They don't know what's going to happen. They just want a bit of certainty to know whether they will be having to pay more tax or not. That's what they're looking for from you.
No, I understand, and that's why we've made this commitment to protect working people's income through their pay slips, because we know it really matters to people, because ultimately it depends whether you've got that spare bit of cash or not at the end of each month. And look, we came into government with a very difficult set of economic circumstances, lots of spending commitments that were not funded. We had to make changes at the budget last year. We were criticised for doing that, but we needed to raise taxes, for example, through tax reliefs for business property inheritance or land inheritance, or the non-dom tax status for the wealthiest international people who were living in the United Kingdom but not paying the same rate of tax as everybody else. But we did that whilst honouring our commitment to protect working people in their pay slips. And that was the choice that we made going into the budget last year, and we stick by our manifesto commitments.
Are you excited about President Trump's visit in September?
Yes, look, the palace has confirmed that President Trump's second state visit will happen in September. I know the Prime Minister and the government are looking forward to welcoming him to the United Kingdom. And, there are lots of benefits to having a strong relationship with the United States. People know about that in terms of defence and security. But only, I think it was last week, the consultancy Deloitte published a report to say that we were the most attractive destination for international investment in the world, alongside India, primarily because of the trade deal we've been able to agree with President Trump and the United States. So we benefit in terms of our economy and our defence and national security capabilities by continuing our very historic and important relationship with the United States of America, whoever is president.
Is it a coincidence that he's been invited just a day or so after Parliament rises, so he can't address the House of Commons?
Oh, I don't know. I mean, look, it's the Speaker's decision who can and who cannot address Parliament within the Palace of Westminster. I don't know why the particular dates were chosen by the Palace. Of course, state visits are organised by the Palace, not by the government or Parliament. Okay, so the dates have been set.
Sweat being wiped from foreheads this morning. Phew, you won't be addressing the Commons.
Timing.
I don't know. But look, we look forward to welcoming the President between the 17th and 19th of September.
All right, Minister, thank you very much for your time.
Chief Secretary of the Treasury there. Thank you.